Let's say you have a piano part and you want to use that in your piece. You want Suno to create, say, a string arrangement around it, but you want the part to remain exactly how you have it originally. Well, you cannot always guarantee Suno is going to do this for you, but sometimes you can get close. So let's take a couple cases here. One where I have just a MIDI piano part that's going to be played at a constant tempo. I'll bring that into Suno and ask Suno to put some strings around it. And then I'll try and extract Suno's piano part and put my piano part back in. And then I'll try and do that again with a real piano performance, which is going to have some fluctuation in tempo, and see how Suno might deal with that. Let's take this simple piano piece I wrote a while ago. I'll play it for you. It's very short. And I'll then try and bring it into Suno, make a cover of it, set it so that Suno's going to make a string arrangement with the piano. And then we'll see how we can, using stems, extract the piano, and in a mixing program. I'll just use Camtasia as an example here, but you would probably use a DAW, some more sophisticated mixing program. Okay, so I loaded the original into Suno. When I loaded it in, Suno gives you some explanation of what it thinks your piece is. Here, for this short little piece, it said, upbeat and whimsical ragtime piano composition characterized by a fast-paced 2/4 meter and a strong stride piano left-hand pattern. The piece features a syncopated melody in the right hand with frequent use of chromatic passing tones, trills, and rapid arpeggios. The harmonic la-di-da-di-da. It's not really even close in some cases to what I actually put in. Suno tries to figure out what you have there, and it may use that if you don't give it much other information on style to try and recreate something. Once you bring your original in, I go remix and I make a cover of it. And from that cover, then I create my version. When you create the cover, you can input your influences, audio influence, style influence, and weirdness influence, as we said before. When I want to try and exactly match something, I'll start by saying audio influence to 100 and weirdness to 0, and I'll keep the style influence in the middle. Initially, that tends to give me the closest representation to what I put in. You can play around with that a bit, but anytime you start fiddling with these controls, you may well get something out that you're not expecting. And even if you set them this way, you still might not get what you're expecting. For one of these, some suggestion on the internet in a Suno group said to try and keep this as close to the original as possible, put a lot of style indications in trying to match what you had. For example, here, keep the original piano performance unchanged and dominant. Do not reinterpret, reharmonize, or modify the piano part. Use the piano recording as the exact timing and dynamics reference. Add soft supported string arrangement only. Strings must sit behind the piano, low volume, cinematic, and subtle. No additional instruments. I put in no drums, no tempo changes, and no piano replacement. So this was one of the suggestions. A lot of prompts. Now, sometimes putting in a lot of prompts can create something more exact to your desires, and sometimes too many prompts create something you don't really want. This is what this created for all these prompts. It's putting in all these arpeggios. It's not really giving me exactly what I put in. Oh, wow. And now it's just going overboard. Sometimes putting in too many prompts like this, it may give you something closer. It may go out into left field. With Suno, you never really know for sure what your prompts are going to do. They're not exact and they're not guaranteed. I tend to like to put my prompts in much simpler to try and get out something that I like. What I did for the one that I liked was I put in the same influences, but all I told it was piano, strings, no drums, keep piano part as is, match original tempo, and then I have something in here, I even put it in wrong, fax to silence. I meant to say fade to silence. Sometimes Suno has a tendency to stick on some noise at the end of your examples. And here's what came out of this. That actually was much closer to what was desired with the long set of prompts that we just put in. I'm not sure whether Suno remembers prompts that you previously put in when you changed them. It seems sometimes it does make those associations. This one is pretty close in terms of what the piano is doing to what was originally intended. Well, what we can do now is once we have this that we like, I'll go in and I'll get stems on this. I've already done it, so I can see the extracted stems. This will cost you 50 credits to do. But when I do that, I can then see my stems. Here we can see keyboard stems and other. So other would be the string and other instruments that might have been put on. And just because I say I only want strings, sometimes Suno might put some other stuff in on there. So then I can go and download all the stems. And I did that. And what we'll do now is we'll go back to Camtasia. I'll import those stems and we'll see how we can play with them with this piece. So I've brought everything into Camtasia. And again, you're going to want to use a real DAW, Ableton, Cubase, whatever you are used to, because you'll be able to do fine editing that way. So I have the original MIDI output from my notation program. You'll notice it starts a little bit before the music. That's because I have a little rest at the beginning of this. The notation program tends to screw up your output sometimes if you have it starting exactly on the beat, creating MIDI. I can just remove that. Everything now syncs up. I have my original MIDI piano part. I have the combined Suno output, and then I have the stems for the strings and whatever else Suno would put in there in this case. So you can see things match perfectly. In this case, Suno just happened to create an output totally tempo synced to the original. That may not always be the case. Always check your Suno output BPM for your example if you're creating something in a fixed beat per minute output. If you don't specify anything, Suno can create small changes in tempo to humanize the output, and then you're going to have a lot of difficulty syncing anything up. But of course, that's one of the great advantages of using Suno output. It creates a very human musical output. So I have the original MIDI piano part. I have the Suno created combined part, and I have the string stems. I can play them together to see if they're all synced. And they are in this case. Well, it's fortunate for me that this has these nice articulations in it to begin that I can see and very easily sync things up on. Let's just play some of the combined output. Piano is exactly like what it should be in the original there. There's our string accompaniment. But the mix may not be what you want there. The strings might be too loud, the piano might be too loud. Well, that's the whole reason of using stems and bringing them into your mixing program, to be able to have control on the volume of each one. So what we'll do now is we'll disable the Suno output and we'll just play the string stems with the original piano. And then I'll probably have to start doing something to normalize the volumes of those as well. Well, maybe I want to make the piano a little louder. In Camtasia, this is kind of how I have to do it. But this is just an example. And we'll make the strings a little lower maybe. And let's see, that may be a little better mix for what we want to do. And of course, you'll be able to fine-tune your mix when you bring this into a DAW. Now let's do something similar, but I'll use a piece that was actually performed a long time ago. So let's play the piece and we'll do a similar extraction of stems and see if we can sync things up in Suno with a string, or in this case, a synth string part that it added. So I did a similar thing. I brought the piece into Suno. I covered it. I created it with a similar set of style specifications. In this case, I simply said piano, strings, keep original piano part, match tempo, no tempo changes, no other instruments fade to silence. And Suno created this, which matches up pretty well. Let me play it. Well, that wasn't bad. Suno pretty much recreated the original with some extra notes in there, changed a few things around. But Suno really doesn't know dissonant style that well. So typically Suno will do one of two things with a dissonant piece like this. It will either keep it the way it is, or it'll start making it more tonal to suit its need, depending upon what your style inputs are. So I didn't really tell it a kind of style. I just said, make it piano and strings. Now you might decide that, hey, this is fine. I'm going to use this version. It's good enough. It changed a few things, but it's pretty much still my music. Well, let's take a look at the actual output, and you'll see that it's very much synced to a certain point, but then it starts getting a little bit out of sync. So if I tried to put the original piano music to this, it'd work for the beginning, but then it would get out of sync. So you can hear when I play everything together, Suno is not quite matching the piano part. There's some differences there. In the middle, it gets a little out of sync. I don't think Suno can deal with that human piano performance and match it exactly. Remember, Suno is taking audio input, not MIDI, and it's working in the audio domain, which is kind of amazing. So you'll have to take this in if you want to add your original piano part and extract the Suno using stems. You're going to have to do some editing in your DAW. You'll also have to figure out how to match Suno mastering reverb output. That can be a little difficult. This is not a simple problem of trying to mix Suno output with your own. You can do it, but as you see, it is a technical challenge.